This episode belongs in a museum. Hello everyone, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we are here to talk about a farmable rare for once. We are on the free-to-play, and I have 6-starred a farmable rare that has actually transformed my account and made me get through several places where I was struggling in Curse City and Doom Tower, and I think it's worth discussing. Now, to be fair, I did get some of this idea from Hell Hades, but I've been using him in places I didn't expect to be able to use him after seeing that I might be able to use him for Bommal. So that, of course, is talking about Templar. Templar here has got a pretty simple kit. He's a pretty simple champion. He is a farmable rare in the stage 8 of the campaign, so you can get him very easily. He is well known for the fact that he puts block damage on himself after attacking 4 times at random and provoking champion. Now, this can be booked down to a 3-turn cooldown. It does not have to be booked for what we're doing, and in fact, it's probably better off if it is not booked, because you do not want to be landing provokes. You probably don't want to be landing this decreased speed either if you can avoid it, because that can cause some issues. Overall, it's not too bad if you've booked him. It's not a big deal. Some of the stuff is going to be manual anyway. Not all of it, but some of it's going to be manual anyway. So if you ended up booking him, it's not the worst thing in the world. At the same time, not needing to book him makes him stupidly accessible. But again, he can do decreased speed on the same one. Not too bad. Damage is inflicted based on his defense, so he's a defense-based champ, fairly tanky for a rare. Again, we've got block damage and a provoke here. If you're desperate for a provoke, this is not bad, but again, it's only a 50% chance of breaking provoke, and it's at random 4 times, so the first hit's going to be whoever you're targeting, and after that, it's random if it hits anybody else at all, and who it hits. And finally, he does have this passive here, attacks this champion's skill, default skill whenever an enemy places a debuff on this champion. This is also critical to why he is so good at farming, because he can do all kinds of cool stuff with this skill. The extra damage he can do lets you get through some of the bosses very well. So we are going to build him to solo Bommal, and at least the lower levels of Bommal. So this can solo Bommal 90, this can solo Bommal 10 hard, this can probably solo the earlier levels as well with this build, or probably even a slightly cheaper build. So we're going to talk about a few of the things that you need to make this work, both the would be nice to have and what you really kind of need to do. First of all, you'll notice that mine has a blessing, but I haven't actually picked one yet, and that's intentional because I've been doing all of this stuff without a blessing, and I got this blessing this morning and said, ooh, I want to get that blessing from the shop, purchased it to make sure I have it. And so we're going to run him in a couple of these areas without the blessing and show you his stats. And then I'm going to pick a blessing. Specifically, I'm going to pick Phantom Touch, because all of these are going to give him an extra 2,250 HP, and that just helps him survive that much longer. The more HP and the more defense he has, the longer he can survive in the build we're dealing. Specifically, I'm going to go with Phantom Touch because that is bonus damage. Now, anything else? Probably not. I mean, Indomitable Spirit might get a chance to block things like provokes, could be okay. You know, it might make the runs a little more consistent, but it's a 5% chance at low, so it's really not really worth it. Miracle Heal doesn't make a lot of sense. Dark Resolve doesn't make a lot of sense. Increase the damage against bosses. Well, this would be a 0.5% damage for each boss you're dealing with constantly. Not the worst thing, but honestly not particularly great. Faultless Defense, not particularly good. He doesn't place increased defense on himself. We don't have a shield on him, and in fact, we don't want a shield on him because if we're talking about Bommal, you don't want that shield to get stripped and he gets extra bombs on him. Survival Instinct can have turn meter boost, and since it's random and not 100%, well, it is 100%, but if you're struggling to get the right speeds, this could be okay. But because of the randomness of occasionally bombs not landing on him, for example, or debuffs not landing on him, or in some cases debuffs, extra debuffs landing on him, this is not as reliable as you might want it, so I would avoid this as well. Nourish makes no sense. He doesn't have continuous heal, and Nature's Bounty doesn't make any sense. He's not placing a lot of debuffs. So overall, Phantom Touch is the one that will add something to his kit. But honestly, if all you're looking for is the stats, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. Masteries, on the other hand, are very, very important, and this is why you do kind of need to 6-star him. Without War Master, he doesn't do enough damage to actually get through the boss in any reasonable amount of time. Now, there are some options to do that instead. You could actually pair him with the Monkey King, and Sun Wukong will revive himself. The problem with doing that is that Sun Wukong reviving himself can sometimes throw off some speed tunes, so depending on how tight your speed tune is and where your speeds are, that can be a bit of a problem. Another thing on the speed tune that's important is I've got him here with Spirit Haste. Spirit Haste makes it a lot easier to build him to solo because that can get up to 24 additional speed. Again, this is part of why tuning him with the Monkey King can be kind of interesting, but since he's going to be him and then maybe the Monkey King, he's going to get the 24 points of speed there. 4. The healing is just kind of nice because you're going to get him in a regeneration set to be able to heal himself regularly. You could certainly get Whirlwind of Death right here, add an additional 18 speed. That could be helpful. That's only if he's killing somebody. So it's kind of hard to get him to kill people on the waves. You're going to have to manual the waves to do that. Maybe that gets you a few extra points of speed, 6 or 12. It's probably not the most important thing to get, but Whirlwind of Death is certainly a good option. On the other hand, you could argue that maybe Single Out might be just a little bit better because that will help you finish off the boss once he gets down below 40 HP. Either one works. We're looking to keep him alive, so Life Drinker is just very, very helpful in case he gets a little too low. Otherwise, we're just here for the crit rate, some crit damage. If he happens to be max HP, then he's going to do additional extra damage. That makes more sense, I think, than these less than 50% extra 5%, because you really don't want him less than 50% as much as possible. Extra damage for dead allies, that actually is super helpful. Extra damage against targets with a higher max HP, while bosses, they're going to have higher max HP. He only really is going to do most of his damage with the A1, so this is additional damage. And again, War Master makes a lot of sense. So these are the masteries that you're really going to want. You'll notice I didn't get any other accessories here. I could have gotten Kill Streak, but again, if you're not going to get a lot of kills, it's not a lot of extra damage. And honestly, with an A1, it's not going to be a lot of extra damage anyway. So I decided to save the energy and not farm those additional 200 skulls. Save myself some energy, save myself some time. He is level 58. I did have to get him to a fairly high level to get the HP we need. If you can hit the HP and defense and speed at a lower level, you can certainly run him at a lower level. And honestly, I did do some of the content at lower levels. When he was level 42, in some cases, he worked just fine. The higher you're going in Doom Tower and the higher you're going in Centranos, the harder it is to do him at a lower level. You'll also notice I haven't ascended him yet because I have a mission to ascend a Spirit Champion tomorrow. So I am doing everything I can to avoid ascending him until tomorrow. And if that means I have to wait a day on one of the dungeons, well, I have to wait a day on one of the dungeons. So what is this build we're talking about? Well, I've got him with 42k HP. I've got him at 2.7k defense. I've got him at 182 speed. And the rest of the stats don't really matter. His attack does not affect his damage at all, so the attack doesn't matter at all. You'll notice he does have a relic on here, and I'll show you that relic, and that relic is just for some extra security, but he doesn't necessarily need that relic. If you can get closer to about 50k HP, you're going to be safer. If you can get closer to 3k defense, you're going to be safer. Depending on what floor you're doing is going to depend on these stats a little bit. That speed can be kind of flexible. The speed can be a little bit lower. The speed can be a little bit higher. You can certainly play with it a bit, both with the blessings as well as the masteries that you're going to be using. So some masteries may give you additional speed here or there. So as long as you're aware of what those masteries do and how they're going to affect your speed, you can tune it just a little bit. The end result is we're looking to have this champion, at least for Bommal, to be just the right speed to be able to go and use his block damage right before the big bombs explode. So of course we need to keep him alive. So how do you do that? Well, regeneration gear and immortal gear. Ideally, if you can get him in regeneration and immortal gear, that would be better. I can't, at least not on this account, not on my free to play. So to get him with the rest of the stats we needed, we had to go with regeneration and 2 other piece sets. So we've got defense on the gloves and then HP on the chest. You can flip around vice versa, whichever one you want, but I highly recommend having 1 defense and 1 HP to get yourself some good defense as well as good HP. Some of the hits for Bommal are flat max HP hits, but not all of them are. So having defense helps mitigate some of the damage as well. So don't ignore that. And then of course the accessories I've got here is I've got a defense ring with some HP and defense percent. It's a pinpoint ring, which is honestly there because I had 2 pinpoint pieces and I got some speed. This, I don't have any really good amulets, but this was worth 9, almost 10 points of speed just because of the pinpoint set bonus. Set bonus here being the 10% extra speed. So that is entirely why this particular amulet is on. If I was looking for just stats, well, that's a better amulet, that's a better amulet, that's a better amulet. Stats that are the main stats that are going to be defense or HP, or an alien amulet that has both, it's going to be better than an attack amulet or a crit damage amulet. But it is the gear that I have. Definitely has speed boots on as well. I could certainly ascend some of this gear as not, but I just chose not to because I don't have a lot of the ascension materials, and we're talking about a very, very budget build. You already have to 6-star this champion, so the investment is not light, but 6-starring this champion is really necessary to get that War Master because War Master is doing about 90% of the damage we're going to be doing against the boss. Finally, I mentioned I did have a Relic on him. The Golden Elixir is absolutely amazing for this build. Wearer is instantly healed by 10% when their HP drops below 50%. This is an extra emergency valve to make sure that he tends to not go below 50%. And this can trigger with no limit. So if he gets below 50%, heals up to above it with the regeneration gear, then gets knocked down below it, he could heal himself above it with the next hit, which means he also might heal himself again after the next hit after that. So very, very good for this particular build. But unfortunately, until I get to level 15, the stats don't help him at all. But I don't need to get it to level 15 because honestly, it's the effect that we're looking for. That said, if I did level it up, you can get additional healing out of it when you level it up. So getting it up to level 9 wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I'm not investing in that thing that much because, again, this is a budget build and we're talking about what we can possibly do with it. So we are here, first of all, in Cintranos at D9, and that happens to let you use Sacred Order. So this was the team I brought against this boss. Now you'll see here the Scarab happens to actually be Force, which is great for Templar because that means that Templar can get weak hit on occasion, which means he's not always going to take a huge pounding. Now, I also have somebody with a defense aura here. If I had an HP aura, I might use an HP aura instead. Either one of them works. There are ways to mitigate the damage against this team. So we run with these champions here. Honestly, it really doesn't matter other than the aura and the fact that this is Templar. The rest of these champions are going to die, hopefully very quickly. Maybe they get a little extra damage in before ahead of time. So let's start this on auto and we'll kind of show you how the run goes. All right, so immediately, since we don't have any shields against the Scarab starts counterattacking the moment we do any sort of attack. And if you look at this, we've already lost two of our 5 champions total, 2 of the 4 other champions, I guess. Templar here still seems to be pretty good. It is certainly a little dangerous the longer these champions live, because the longer these champions live, the more counterattacks that the Scarab is going to get in between Templar getting some of his turns. So we've lost Alice. That's great. We should lose Ugu here shortly. Maybe one more hit. Okay, we got a leech up. That's not the worst thing in the world. But now we have Templar here, and he's going to do his work. Now you'll see he's hitting, and when he's not hitting with War Master, he's only doing 375 damage because he's got a hit through the shell. Up there, he got a big hit there at 525. There's an 838. So every once in a while, he's doing something big. Once we get that War Master proc, though, which we should see are close, hopefully soon. Are we really not getting that War Master? Or maybe that is the damage with War Master. There we go. There's an extra 1,130 on top of that. Finally got that War Master to proc. There we go, the 1,130. So you'll see here, he's doing much more damage with the War Master than everything else. Now he's doing some damage, but obviously War Master is doing a significant amount more. We're not going to whittle the shield down, and that's fine. This is going to be a long, long, long run. So I'm not going to sit through this, and I'm not going to make you sit through this because I have already beaten this before. But we'll pull up a screenshot here and show you what this can look like when it's done. Well, scratch that. It turns out I don't have a screenshot of this, which is very unfortunate. As you can see now, we're about 3 minutes into this run, 48 turns, and we are maybe 10% of the way through the boss. Probably not. We're probably closer to 5%. This run is probably going to take an hour. Not saying this is a fast speed run. And to be fair, I don't have unlimited frames on at the moment, so certainly might be a little bit faster for you. If you've got your Templar built for some more damage, that can certainly work. But if you look here, we're not dying. We're still at 100%, and we're just chucking away and doing some damage. So eventually the Scarab boss is going to die, and we'll run through this. Can you do this with lower stats? This particular floor, yes. Other Scarabs, probably. This one is actually a little easier to tune because we don't have to worry about both killing things on the waves ahead of time, as well as we don't have to speed tune against the Scarab quite as much, because the Scarab is literally just going to be this back and forth that we have right here, where we will counterattack every time we get debuffed, and then we will attack him every time we can. So you'll get a lot of extra attacks here as well as he takes his turns, and, you know, it'll slowly but surely work its way forward. As we've been talking for about a minute here, you can see we've chucked through maybe 2 bars, maybe 3. It's a very, very slow run, but you only have to do it once. So we're over here at P12 to show you another boss I actually managed to down with Templar as well. This one happens to be a dual boss with the Scarab and with the spider. The difference with this was I generally took these champions and focused on downing the spider by using Geomancer to do damage to the spider and the reflection, and eventually just attacking the spider until my champions got provoked. Once they got provoked, it was mostly a matter of hoping the Templar managed to stay alive long enough to let everyone else die, and mostly keep these guys alive. And Monkey King, because he constantly comes back, can take care of the spiderlings pretty quickly as well. So what happens is when the Scarab gets almost everybody or the rest of them die, hopefully you've managed to kill the spider by then. And if not, the Monkey King can come back every couple of turns and attack the Spider King and get the spider down. So it works fairly well. I'm not going to run through it necessarily. Well, you know what? Let's run through it and show you how this kind of works. So turn this off auto, because this absolutely is not an auto. So we are just going to attack the spider directly. We got some brimstone on the spider. That is good. We get Geo's burn on the spider, so now anytime damage is taken, we're going to reflect that damage. And yeah, just keep on attacking the spider, and then as these little spiderling dudes do some damage to us, we'll there we go. So they start attacking Alice, which is great. So, and now we're chunking away at the big spider's health, because that's how this particular team goes. So we'll have Alice do her A1, because I don't want to be provoking everybody yet. I want to avoid provoking the Scarab as much as possible. Now the Scarab has taken a turn, we do have to sit through this. Maybe I probably should have wiped the spiderlings out first before I got that done. He did do his heal and blow up the spiders though without less thing. So from here on out, we are letting Geo's reflect kill the spider. It might get kind of close, but as you can see, the spider is, you know, slowly whittling away, and as we get a few more of these attacks from the Scarab, all that damage he's doing is reflecting towards the spider, and the spider is dead. So at this point in time, we just have to survive long enough to get through the spiderlings. Templar hopefully can keep himself alive. The spiderlings do have several other targets that are easier for them to hit than otherwise, which is great. Master Butcher helps quite a bit as well, because he can revive somebody as well. And all we need right now is Monkey to ideally take a turn, and we are in good shape. The good news is, because Templar is super tanky, the spiderlings are going to attack anybody other than Templar, at least as long as possible, until we finally get to a chance where the Monkey can actually take a turn and nuke the rest of them down. He does have his AoE up, so it should be pretty easy for him to nuke them all down. All right, so Monkey died, Monkey revived, he gets his turn, do the AoE smack. Almost all the spiderlings are dead. He'll have to do that maybe one more time when he gets a chance to attack here, but those two spiderlings are not really a threat for this run, because they're going to be focused on bringing the Monkey down. He'll eventually come back when he gets a chance to, or maybe one of these guys won't get provoked and we can kill either of those spiderlings. Or better yet, we might even get a brimstone proc that will cause the spiders to die as well. There we go. In fact, we got a counterattack from Templar. Templar actually does counterattack when he gets debuffed, so we're good to go. And from here on out, this is full auto. Sun Wukong will revive himself. He'll occasionally do additional attacks to speed this up a little bit. Otherwise, we're full auto with this in Templar. And this is going to run a lot quicker than the other one. It's still going to run maybe 20 to 30 minutes. Because again, Templar is not doing a ton of damage. Wukong does add quite a bit. But even then, he's only attacking a few times, and we have a bunch of animations for the Scarab boss to sit through. So this is Bommal Hard 10, and this is the team I took through to get to Bommal Hard 10. As you can see, this took 9.5 minutes to work through. This was a manual run. In fact, I did this manually on Twitch. If you want to check out my Twitch stream, you can check out with a link down below. I do stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, aka CatHerdays. CatHerder is an exclusive Twitch thing, so go join me there. We do takeovers, we have a lot of fun, and oftentimes you can see me playing these accounts live if you want to learn what I'm doing. So we did this live on Twitch, and basically I need to manually run Templar and Wukong, because I don't want Wukong doing his A3, which is easy to turn off. I can certainly turn that off on auto. But I also need to make sure that Templar does his A2 regularly on the right time. And even if he gets stunned, if he's unbooked, it'll work just fine. If he is unbooked or booked, he could occasionally get stunned or can get out of sync, and as a result, he won't work properly. So you really do need to manual this. Fortunately, it's only 10 minutes, which sounds horrible, but there are some manual runs that can take 30, 40 minutes. So the fact that this can take 10 minutes or less, not too bad. You just do have to be on the ball with paying attention for it. So what we do is when we go into this fight, we are going to manual this fight up through the waves, because I want to make sure that we want these three to die. Ideally, either before the boss or right at the boss. So we want them to be ready to die or to die right when the boss takes their turn. So part of that is going to be, in this particular case, we've got Drexstar here lighting people on fire, getting those extra burns out to kind of check down on my health here just a little bit is one of the better ways to deal with this. So you also want to target champions that heal, because we want to wear these folks down as well. And if they're healing, that can be a problem with getting through the wave at all if they're constantly healing and now you're not getting through. So we've almost got Alice dead right here. Cold Heart's pretty easy to die. And if Geomancer makes it to the boss, he will die pretty quickly on the boss. So far we are doing pretty good. And we'll get to the boss and we'll see you there. All right, so we have managed to let almost everybody die, except for obviously Sun Wukong gets himself back up, and we've got Templar here. So we are on to the boss. So the strategy here is we are not going to use this A2 until these bombs that he drops get very, very close to exploding. So we're going to watch the turn meter that they have right here, and we're going to wait until it is within the last 25% before we actually use his A2 right here. So until then, we are going to attack with both of them. Now, this does help if you have Sun Wukong not having the Evil Eye Mastery, because that means his first attack will drop another bomb, and that makes tuning this quite a bit more difficult. So, as you can see here, now these are full. We do his block damage. The bombs explode. Sun Wukong did get up between there, which is fine. We got a smite on the boss, which is fine, but he took no damage from those two bombs and is ready to go. And that's pretty much rinse and repeat. Now we've gotten a bit of a chunk away. You can see here, the brimstone is certainly going to make that a lot faster. And it actually helps if Monkey dies early before bombs explode on him, because if a bomb explodes on him, that can stun Templar, and we don't really want Templar stunned if we don't have to have him stunned. So otherwise, we're just going to keep on chunking away right here. This should be the last attack before we get everything ready to go. You can do your A2. And now we do your block damage. Whether or not, oh, you're going to get extra turn. That's awesome. And then these bombs are explode. People are dying. And Templar is still alive. So that is how the Doom Tower Templar build works. And whether or not this is going to take you 10 minutes, it might certainly take you a lot less, because you're probably not going to be talking and explaining this to people while you're doing it. But this is the run. Now, if he doesn't have enough HP, he'll slowly but surely start to slip down below that 50% line. And once he slips far down below that 50% line, you're no longer getting the benefits of the Relic. Meanwhile, if he has more than enough HP, you'll never need the Relic in the first place, which is kind of nice to not need. You can put it on somebody else. So that is this strategy here in a nutshell. So let's just see how this run goes. I've got a screenshot of this one, I do know. So here you go. This was the run that I had on Twitch. As you can see here, Templar did some damage. Sun Wukong did a lot more damage. All the rest of the damage was mostly versus the waves. In this particular run, Geomancer did live to the boss and had to die on the boss. But otherwise, it worked fine. I could certainly run that infinitely. The fact that I have to manual it for 8 to 10 minutes means that I am not going to be farming Bommal with this particular team. But again, if you're only looking to get through these once and get not only these wonderful rewards here, but continue on Doom Tower and get more of those Doom Tower track rewards as well, then this is a great strategy to unlock Bommal and get you past him. So absolutely recommend building a Templar. We are going to see if I can get past Scarab 20. Scarab 20 has been just a little too difficult without the blessing. So I'm going to run this with the blessing and see. And if they don't have the blessing, well, I'm going to have to throw a banner on him and ascend him to those 6 stars, in about 8 hours to 10 hours anyway. So we'll do that then. All right, so I have thrown Phantom Touch on Templar. That's given him an extra 2.25k HP. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that is the extra he is regenerating every single time he is regenerating HP, since it's off of his max HP. Plus, it gives him a little bit extra wiggle room before he gets down to 50% or below 50% as well. So sometimes just a few K HP here or there can make a huge difference. That's why level 52, for example, didn't work against Bommal, but level 58 did. It's not a lot of HP, but it's just enough HP to make a difference. So I'm going to run this on auto here, and we'll take a look and see how this goes. And again, most of the team people on this team here are here to get us through the waves. So You know, if we get through the waves, that's great. We've got Vergis here as well. Vergis is capable of soloing the Scarab, except for my Vergis is not yet fully booked yet, so he doesn't really quite work out well either. So I still brought him in because he can possibly knock the shield down a little bit. If I get really lucky, maybe he'll knock the shield down enough to make the Templar run a little faster. But we'll get to the boss and we'll take a look and see how that's running. All right, so we're at the boss. Tagore can provide a shield, so we're going to get a shield up first so we can get a few hits. Specifically, we'd like to get Geomancer's burn up if we can, just to get some extra damage, because if we can chunk down the boss a bit before we have to rely on Templar, it's going to speed things up quite a bit. So mostly here we are just hacking and slashing away, but once we start getting provoked and feared, it's going to not end well. And the fact that he got a reflect damage on him because he still Vergis to reflect damage, not the greatest thing in the world, but Alice will clear that off because her A1 will clear that off. So from here, this should mostly be doing what we can to chunk away the HP. Hopefully we can keep Templar healed up a little bit. In fact, if you looked there, he was going to fall below 50% max HP, and the artifact actually brought him back up, and then he regened. So he's generally fairly safe, and with this extra HP that we've got on him, that may be enough for him to do the final run. We'll see. Well, these runs have been sometimes failing as long as 40 minutes in, and sometimes they've only been getting about 5 or 10 in. So we are chunking away at this, though. Vergis is kind of staying alive, which is kind of cool. But eventually we are going to run out of Vergis, and we are going to run out of Templar here. So we'll cut back to you guys. Once Vergis passes away, I'll come back and we'll see where we're at, and then we'll do one final check-in before we wrap this video up. All right, so Vergis has passed away. We are maybe 80, 85% health, so we're still short. The you may not be able to see it, but right here is where the 75% line is on the turn meter, which is also on the health indicator. So we're maybe 85% on there. So from here, we're just letting Templar do his thing. We did not chunk away enough of the shield to actually start doing additional damage. Kind of unfortunate, but again, I know my Vergis is also not built as well as he could be because the Vergis build is difficult, and I really do need to book him, and booking him has been difficult because finding epic books has been hard too, which is why instead it was actually easier for me to build a 6-star Templar. So let's we'll come back and wrap this up, whether or not we succeed or fail. And if we fail, then you're going to need better defense and HP than what I've got here. As I mentioned before, getting him finally to level 60, finishing ascending him, and throwing a banner on him should make the build that much better.
2 hours later.
So after nearly 40 minutes of waiting, we still failed. So Templar does not quite have enough HP and enough defense to do it. So does need to get to level 59 or level 60. That additional ascension and banner is probably going to be the difference. It is very, very close, and what appears to be happening is he goes just far enough below 50 that he can't quite heal up to that 50 to have that artifact also kick in. So again, better gear, maybe having immortal gear on as well, something along those lines would probably get you past Scarab 20 on full auto with this. And at the same time, if you have a Vergis that's built better than my Vergis, Vergis could probably do it as well. So there's a couple different options, but this gets close enough that I can see that with just a few improvements, I can get Templar past Scarab 20. I'm just going to have to wait, at this point in time, another 5 or 6 more hours. So that is Templar in a nutshell. A good way to get through a Scarab boss, a good way to get through Bommal, and definitely useful on an early game account in all kinds of places. You really do need to have him at 6 stars, or you need to pair him with the Monkey King and hope that that works just as well. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So hopefully they found this entertaining. Hope you found this interesting. And hey, if you get a chance, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. And remember, if you're looking to start a great new account with Raid Shadow Legends, use that link down below. If you're on Polarium Play, log out of Polarium Play before you download it, run it. It'll set up a new account for you, and you will get Ugo almost immediately, and then you will get Rector Drath around level 15. It's a great way to start your account with 2 endgame viable epics. So thanks for hanging around. Appreciate you guys. Much love to all you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Until the next video, I'm Bront, CatHerder.
Just tripping on daydreams.